If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to Downfall Network for more cool content.
What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal here to bring you a very special October band discography ranking. It is that of Typo Negative. Now, I, of course, am Shredlord.
I'm Jammin Jon.
Necrotic Nick.
I am Rin.
Miller. And together, the five of us are going to take you through the album career of one of my favorites, Peter Steele's Typo Negative. Now, Typo Negative is a very important band to me. It's a band that I discovered in my teenage years thanks to a good friend of mine growing up, and they forever cemented themselves as one of my melancholy, depressed favorites to listen to, Halloween, month of October favorites, and you know, Peter Steele was always one of my biggest heroes growing up. He was a big, goofy, misunderstood guy that hated himself, and I felt like I could relate a lot. So this band continued to be a big influence in my musical career, and I still listen to them a lot to this day.
I've been listening to Typo Negative probably since 95, which definitely puts a date on me because I was in high school.
He's old.
This band was pretty much kind of my gateway into all things goth. It was definitely metal, but all this goth atmosphere kind of got me into stuff like Sisters of Mercy later and Joy Division, stuff like that. These guys always had such a unique sound, and it doesn't seem to matter what era of music I was in, new metal phase or whatever. I would always come back to Typo because I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was just different.
I got introduced to Typo Negative somewhere around 96 or so.
And I'm old.
I was also in high school. I'm also old. We're all old. Except for that one who's younger. But, yeah, it was just kind of, I think, almost an anthemic thing for any teenager during that time period. I never listened to Typo Negative as much as some of my cohorts, but, I mean, still, it's undeniable what it is whenever it comes on. And songs like Black Number One, I think, are the most well-known songs on the face of the planet. Even people that don't like metal know who Typo Negative is. So.
Big titty goth chicks.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Again, a big influence on a dark, depressing time in life known as all of it.
I got into Typo Negative around 1994. I should be dead. Typo Negative was one of my favorites. First getting into heavy metal due to their spooky videos with chicks thinking about Jesus and Peter's long, lustful member. Bass playing. I saw Typo Negative live 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So twice.
I bought a ticket to see Queensryche only because Typo Negative was opening. I was 15. That was in 1974.
Oddly enough, he's only 23.
I am still 23 years old.
Funny how that works.
I know, right? It's a common core.
It is common. It's the metric system. Pi
Converted.
Carry the
Cut in half.
Radius, Niner,
the Dewey Decimal System.
all of that.
Abacus.
Abacus. Sextant.
Dirty math.
So I got into Typo, again, it was my cousin Brent. I mentioned him in a couple other videos, but he had the album sitting there, and that was the time where I was getting into Nine Inch Nails and all that kind of industrial stuff, and this kind of fits in that realm. It's a little different, but it got me into the Doom stuff. Actually, it was Bloody Kisses was the first I heard. I listened to that album over and over and over, and it fit with that kind of music that I was going for. I wasn't depressed or anything. I had pretty good shit going on.
Screw you, pal.
Screw you,
pal.
Rub your happiness in our faces. That's great.
Yeah, but I could still appreciate the ideas around the music and where it was coming from, and then the struggles of those people, and I could see that. So I appreciated darker music, which is why I get metal and industrial and all the cool shit, because I have gone through shit. At that point, I wasn't going through shit, but Typo was a good jam, and it fit in there. And like I said, Bloody Kisses, I jammed all the time. So, and I sought them out live. They're a great live band. They blew me away live.
Great.
And I think they're one of the bands that I would go live to and not buy the studio albums, because honestly, I only bought Bloody Kisses But like Ween for me, I don't like Ween studio albums, but I drove to Philadelphia to see Ween, and it was the best damn show I've seen, I think, ever. It was awesome. And Typo's in that, and I love that live feel, especially now because we can't fucking do it.
Yeah.
Hashtag sad.
Hashtag sad.
Now, gentlemen, let us dive into the origin of this feces. See what I did there? So back in 1979, when Rin was born,
I was already one.
childhood friends Peter Radicic, I know I'm not saying his name right, it's super, but we'll just call him Peter Steele, okay? So Peter Steele and Josh Silver form a band called Fallout, who released like one untitled album
And 4 video games.
and 4 video games.
And one really bad
I don't
one.
think they did video games. I think
New Vegas.
no,
That's not them?
no, that's the other Fallout.
Are we sure?
Shit.
This guy.
That guy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Peter Steele.
No, that's not Peter Steele.
Oh.
He looked
Oh.
taller on stage.
Shit! I gotta get what?
He lied.
They lied to you.
You better get your money back.
I was like, I went in there. I was like, I want a Peter Steele tattoo.
Gotcha.
The little blonde guy, right? Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I get for hanging out
Yeah.
him back then.
Yeah.
You're a liar. You're a damn liar.
I said, no, that's definitely Peter Steele.
Also agnostic front drummer Louis Beto was also in on it as well. Hey, New York hardcore, right? Forget about it.
Yeah, from
but
Brooklyn.
they broke up, and those Josh Silver guys and Peter Steele, they went their separate ways, and Peter formed a little band called Carnivore. Now, Carnivore had 2 albums. They were kind of like a hardcore, thrash, dark humor. I mean,
Amazing.
yeah, Carnivore is really good, and actually we did a retro review on those Carnivore albums, and they were really, really, really good. However, it was short-lived, of course. Now, after the breakup of Carnivore, Peter tried to get the guitar player Marco to tag along with him in his new band he wanted to start called Sub-Zero. However, Marco declined and ended up joining the Crumbsuckers, and Peter decides to go ahead and re-enlist his good buddy Josh Silver on keys, and then childhood friends Sal Abrascato, I don't know how to pronounce that.
I think that's right.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Good job.
And Kenny Hickey. And these 4 is what we would refer to then as the Drab Four. This would be the first incarnation of Typo Negative as we know it. However, they did for like maybe a year and a half go under the name again. They were Sub-Zero, then they changed it to Repulsion, and then Repulsion was very short-lived, and then it was Typo Negative.
Do you know why that they decided on Typo Negative?
It's a universal donor.
No, when they decided they were Sub-Zero, they all got tattoos of the circle.
Oh.
line.
That would make sense.
And then they
And then
found
they
out.
found out that they couldn't use the name Sub-Zero, and like, wow, we got these
This
stupid-ass
is-
tattoos. Wait, Typo Negative.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's improvising.
That is
yeah.
improvisation.
So now that we have formed the band, it's time to start the discography. In 1991, on Roadrunner Records, Slow, Deep, and Hard is released. Now, once again, it was originally released as a Repulsion record. I forget what the original title was, but that doesn't matter. It was then changed to Slow, Deep, and Hard. Now, Slow, Deep, and Hard was a collection of a lot of ideas and riffs left over from the Carnivore era, and adding just a little bit of influence from the outside musicians to kind of let their interpretations run wild on these songs. This album is my number 7, with hints of doom, goth, new wave, industrial, and of course that classic Peter Steele dark humor. This is the beginnings of some solid shit coming from Typo Negative.
I had this at number 5. I really enjoyed this album, and this was actually, weirdly enough, the most recent one I picked up. I picked it up not too long ago because I didn't own it, and I love the weird contrast between all that Carnivore punk metal and then these weird gothic doom interludes. Prelude to Agony, possibly my favorite song on there because it's just that weird balance of those two, and it has kind of a Black Sabbath kind of swagger to it. And of course, long, ridiculous titles like Unsuccessfully Coping with the Natural Beauty of Infidelity.
Which is one of my
know
favorite
you're fucking
Typo
somebody
songs
else.
ever.
Absolutely.
The short title is much better, but I mean the
Fucking somebody else.
the call and response, he knows.
Yep.
Gang vocals, call and repeat.
Awesome.
Yep.
It's so good.
Gravitational Constant's also amazing too. Zero Tolerance. This is a really solid album in terms of like them starting like, yeah, they're kind of trying to fit out this new sound, but they have ideas coming from different camps here. But it still worked out pretty well.
This is my number 6. I actually liked this record because it had more of a punk rock feel still to it. This is before they went like full-blown goth, depressive, industrial. And I really like the song Unsuccessfully Coping with the Natural Beauty of Infidelity, even though it was a long title. It is one of my favorite songs ever.
Memorable chorus.
Yeah, Zero Tolerance, even Hey Pete.
Which, of course, is a play on Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix,
Yep.
for those of you that don't know.
But it's better.
But it's
Yes,
better.
it's better.
I rank this as number 3. I love all of this. My favorite track is The Misinterpretation of Silence and Its Disastrous Consequences. It's 1 minute of absolute silence. Well played. Unsuccessfully Coping with the Natural Beauty of Infidelity is it's so amazing. Slut, hua, kunt. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
He really was a poet. I'm not even being sarcastic. He was a poet.
He
But
didn't know it.
He wasn't afraid to drop a C-bomb if
Yeah.
he had to get his
Yeah,
point
yeah.
across. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that lovely dark humor.
New York hardcore,
Fucking New York.
gothy New York hardcore.
I had this at number 5, and this one and the second album I kind of see together. It's really like the second, and they go together like a deluxe
Like
edition.
a horse and
Yeah.
carriage.
But I had it 5 but I love the trolling nature of the album, just with the titles and everything else, like
The album
Glass
cover.
Walls of Limbo, dance mix.
Uh-huh.
And it's druid chanting.
Yeah.
It was hilarious, and I loved it. And
It's a
then you
dance
get
mix.
into these punk stuff that's just killer, and you get that doomy Black Sabbath. You know, you really see that in there over the course of the album. I mean, some of the lyrics are kind of ridiculous, but it works really well together, and you get these sweet punk riffs. And you get the doom mixed in there with the whole album, and it's just solid all the way through. And I hadn't heard this album until this ranking, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Now, 1992 rolls along. Once again, another release on Roadrunner Records. They were contracted, I believe, to do a live album.
I think so.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. I could be wrong. But 4 out of the tracks on this album are basically reworked versions of tracks from Slow, Deep, and Hard. The other 2 are originals that have been ideas.
Yep, and they're
then
cover of
covers
Paranoid.
of Black Sabbath's Paranoid.
Yep.
Now, for me, this is number 6 overall. A funny side note, too, is if you look on the credits, P.T. Barnum is credited as
Yep.
producing this album. And for me, the reason it's number 6 over number 7 is, yeah, they're virtually very similar albums, but the humor, to me, that is added from those fake live elements is what gives it a slight edge for me. And let's be honest, at least for me personally, I can find something I love on every single one of these albums, so I
Yes.
don't give a shit if it's 6 or 7. It's
Yeah.
still a good album. But the humor, like, there's a bomb threat. You all need to get out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
So why don't you turn around?
Yeah,
Quit
like
staring at me.
the funny shit that was added in there just gave it a slight edge for me.
I got your money. 15 American dollars.
Who's the asshole
Who's the
now?
asshole now? I'm getting paid. And the crowd is them.
Yep.
It's them.
Booing. They're
Yes.
booing themselves. It's wonderful.
And that's where the "you suck" thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
you
Yep.
suck.
Yeah.
You suck.
At every concert, you suck.
You suck, but we
suck.
got your money.
I have this at number 7 overall. It isn't as though I don't like it. I love all these albums, but it is a little bit lower. I will say that Pete really opens up on this album and shows us a side of himself that not many had seen. And I'm talking about the original cover with his spread open butt cheeks, right, Noonan?
Sphincter.
Gaping beehole.
Sphincter.
Now, some of you may wonder why John is sitting there with nothing coming out of his mouth. It is because a few months ago, I surprised him when he was coming up the stairs at the house with my big, giant, gaping butthole, giggling my ass off the whole time.
Overall, I really dig this album. I like the concept of a fake live album that is obviously fake. Like, it's a troll. It's a troll. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
The only time the crowd cheers, if it's like, we got one more song. And the crowd goes after
It's awesome. But, I mean, some of the reworkings I didn't like as much as the original, like, Pain versus Prelude to Agony. Prelude wins every time for me. But the thing that really stood out to me is their cover of Paranoid,
Good
which
God.
is unrecognizable
Yes.
up until you hear the lyrics like, oh my God, this is Paranoid?
Yep.
This is the gloomiest thing ever. I love it.
It's amazing.
I also had this at number 7, and again, not to knock any of these albums. I sometimes hate rankings because if they're all good records, you're
Yeah.
like, well, I feel like a piece of shit having something at number 6 that shouldn't be. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this album is probably the coolest Typo Negative album in the sense that they're able to make fun of themselves. Again, I don't know if I necessarily like the reworkings either of some of the songs, and really I'm a believer of, don't put the same song on 2 different albums, unless it actually was a live thing. But even so, I like the fake bomb scare.
Bottles thrown.
And the fact that they boo at themselves, that's pretty solid.
Well, I had it at number 1, my favorite Typo album, and you guys just described the reason I love it. It's fucking trolling, and the fact that they had to do a live album. They blew their budget on probably God knows what.
Clove, cigarettes, and blow.
Yeah. And they're like, oh crap, we got to do this.
Yep.
So they throw it out
would've
like
come
that
for
to
free.
the company, like that's metal as
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
And Pain is awesome riffs, super punk feel to that. You get the Doom, the Sabbath type stuff in there. It's literally like everything I like about metal is in that
Yeah.
song. And even the reworks, I understand that, you don't get the drawn out, the whole picture of it, but I kind of like the cliff notes. It's like the best parts of Typo just condensed in. Kill You Tonight, ripping solo there.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get too many solos at all in Typo.
Towards
Like
the end,
solo
you
there.
get more.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
get
yeah.
more toward Kenny Hickey started letting it loose towards the end, but
Oh, yeah.
for the most part, what made Typo special and what made Kenny special is his ability to add haunting, somber melodies that just
Yeah.
enhance the section of that song by 100-fold.
Yeah.
And you have the unrelenting beef of Pete Steele's bass tone. Like, I mean, you didn't need that much more chug when you had that tone, but
Yeah, and he-
Kenny still provided it.
Paranoid is okay. I'm not a huge fan of their covers besides Summer Breeze, which again I rated this number 1, which is totally different than you guys. So I see this band differently. I love Typo punk. They're all good albums, but this is the most complete, I think, and it gives you a good representation of every aspect of Typo, and early on too.
I ranked this album at number 4. I like the silliness, the crowd throwing stuff at Peter. Hey, why don't you come up here and throw it in my face? The vocals are a little more looser. He's doing different things. I Know You're Fucking Someone Else is just, it's so much fun in this one. At the end, he says, thanks for the memories, you fat ass bitch. That cover of Paranoid, it is just nasty.
It's good.
If you didn't know any better, you would think it was their song.
Yeah.
Because it's that different. But yeah, number 4. It's fun. It's a fun time.
Only 1 year later, the 3rd album in the discography would be the one that, in my opinion, put them on the map. That, of course, would be 1993's Bloody Kisses on Roadrunner Records. Strangely enough, in 1993, this was Loudwire's #1 album of the year. This was also the very first album for Roadrunner that would go gold and then eventually platinum. So some good accolades for this album. Obviously, the song that everyone associates Typo Negative with, even the people that aren't fans.
Kill All the White People?
No. Not Kill All the White People.
Oh, okay.
Black #1, of course,
Yeah.
which is basically about an ex-girlfriend of Peter's because he loved the goth girls. If you didn't know that, Peter basically said that he just tried to croon a bunch of goth girls in his young years, and good for him. God love him for it. Christian Woman is a classic.
Yep.
This was Typo firing on all cylinders. Also, this would be Typo Negative's last album with drummer Sal.
Sal joined Life of Agony.
Yep.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
Sal
yeah,
joined
yeah.
Life of Agony. Johnny Kelly comes into the band, and he remains their drummer throughout the end of their career until Peter passes in 2010. This is my number 2 album. To me, this is an excellent blend of everything that Typo has to bring to the table. It still has your hardcore moments. It still has your Black Sabbath moments. It still has your Beatle type moments. It has everything that Typo Negative is famous for on one album, and the songs are fucking incredible. And this is an album that many people will say is their number 1, or if they can only think of one Typo Negative album, it would be the one that they'd come up with immediately on the spot.
This is also my number 2, and it wasn't just because I had lesbians on the cover, but that might have had some play in terms of why I bought
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. This is pretty much their big coming out party. Josh Silver just comes out big
Unsung
time on
hero
this.
of Typo.
Absolutely. Honestly, in the early ones, you could barely tell he had a keyboardist. This one, you 100% know they have a keyboardist, and he adds so much to it. I would say if I was going to put Typo down to one song to describe people what they sound like, it would be We Hate Everyone, because you get a little bit of everything they do in that one song. This is an absolutely amazing album. This was my introduction to all things goth. This was the starting point right here. And again, it might have had something to do with lesbians on the cover, but I also love the music.
It doesn't matter what got you there, as long as you were there.
And lesbians matter.
And they were there too.
This album was my number 4. This was my first real introduction to Typo Negative and I think goth music in general. And like I stated earlier, this is pretty much anthemic for every goth in the world.
You couldn't escape Black Number 1. It was on the radio.
Yeah, I mean, right.
Yeah.
And it still is on the radio all the time. And in fact, I was kind of shocked when we were in the Halloween store earlier and they didn't have it on.
Oh, they don't play actual Halloween music in there.
They're playing Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Halloween.
That's all right.
Christian Woman, the title track, the Seals and Cross covers, Summer Breeze. It's a great record. Fell a little bit in the ranking though. When I went back and jammed it, it's not what I remembered it to be. So it's still a great album. Number 4.
I had 3. It starts off really strong, and when going back to it, because I listened to this album a lot, way back then, and then revisiting it, like, I realized that the first half of the album is really strong, and then it kind of trails off a little bit. Kill All the White People, Summer Breeze, I love that one. We Hate Everyone has moments, but there's some parts that I just don't care for the way the vocals are delivered too much. I like that song. So the song Too Late is kind of the same thing. I think he sometimes uses too many effects because he has a really great voice, and I don't think when you have a really great voice you don't need too many effects, but I understand he experiments with stuff, and it's Peter Steele. He experimented with sounds up the bazoo.
And the ladies.
Yeah, and the ladies.
He's the Barry White of fucking metal.
Can't Lose You, I just thought that was dumb. I didn't like that song. I didn't. I thought it was dumb. It was like, it just reminds me of like the shit I don't like about Typo Negative, and it's just 6 minutes of it, and then this starts the sitar obsession that he has.
The sitar is
it
cool.
Comes up.
I like it.
I do too.
It's awful.
You're outnumbered.
I like it. It fucking sucks.
Agree to disagree, but you're right.
I don't know. It's still one of my favorite
It's
albums
great.
all time.
Yeah. This is the greatest piece of music ever recorded by human beings on machines. That's not true. That's not true. This is my number 1, though. If we were ranking them, this would be 5 out of 5. This is a gothic masterpiece. It starts out with Machine Screw, which is spooky industrial noises and moaning and machinery, and something kind of spooked me out as a kid. Then you go into Christian Woman. Amazing. Beautiful riff, beautiful vocals. The song is 8 minutes and 58 seconds long. It's long enough to have sex twice. Nothing says Halloween like Black Number 1. Milky Nick. The Devil's Mark. The go-go beat, pre-chorus, the chorus. This song is 11 minutes and 16 seconds long. Long enough to have sex 3 times.
Foreplay?
What's that?
Okay.
And then you got Kill All the White People. Maybe. But maybe do it to this song, because this song is amazing. It's everything I hate about white people. Wait, no. Anyway, the song Summer Breeze could possibly be the greatest covers ever. The song is 4 minutes and 49 seconds long. Long enough for sex and a sandwich. Yeah, I like the sitar. Blood and Fire.
Blood and Fire's
I
awesome.
love this song. I love this album.
Yeah.
Love.
Amazeballs.
Make love to it.
And
During it.
After it.
After it.
Before it.
Coitus.
Coitus.
If you listen to the whole album, you're having sex at least 6 3/4 times and having a sandwich.
Probably should drink like a
What
gallon
kind
of
of
water.
sandwich?
Something with a lot of protein.
You're gonna need it.
So after a killer album and Bloody Kisses, 3 years would pass until Roadrunner would release yet another Typo Negative album, and this would be October Rust. Now, October Rust for me is my number 1 Typo Negative album for nostalgic reasons and just for sheer love. Gone in this album are some of the hardcore elements and some of the fast-paced metal things, and this is Peter Steele like crooning at his finest. The hooks and the melodies in this album are incredibly strong. Songs like In Praise of Bacchus, My Girlfriend's Girlfriend, Red Water, Christmas Morning, just incredible fucking songs. In Praise of Bacchus is one of my favorite songs. I think that's a masterpiece. I absolutely adore that song. And pretty much from front to back, I listen to this and just do nothing but get in my feels and feel like I'm 17, 18 years old again. So that's how I feel.
I have this at number 3. I kind of miss the punk and hardcore moments, and when you said dialing them down, they kind of removed them altogether. But what they did was still really good. This is kind of like romanticized gothic, crooning, lush melodies. This is an incredibly lush album. It is super melodic. In Praise of Bacchus is one of my favorites. Wolf Moon, of course. Wolf Moon has such a huge chorus. There are lots of huge choruses on here. Burnt Flowers Fallen, another favorite. It's just a little bit different, and it was mostly that kind of missing that, punk hardcore energy, but we got a pretty cool trade-off on it, and I still think this is an absolutely amazing album.
Who else could write a song about a girl on her period and pull it off as beautifully as Peter did?
It's true.
No one.
We'll keep them veiled in the poetry. They'll never know.
This is my number 2. I know this album really well. In fact, it wasn't until I jammed it again that I realized that I know pretty much every song on this album. To me, I think this was the peak of their career. I think this is when they sounded most like what they wanted this band to be. Songs like Love You to Death, dude, the end of Be My Druidess, Joe has nailed into my brain for the rest of my life. Joe, Shred will do anything to see you come.
So, let me at least a quick 30-second video. So, when Jammin and I were younger, we used to indulge, well, sometimes that, but we would indulge in The Devil's Lettuce, and I would turn up John's system in his garage out in the country to like insane volumes, and I used to
really
put
good
on
speakers.
Be My Druidess, and the part comes when he says I'll do anything to make, I would just stare him and our buddy Tommy dead in the eyes and just
with that face of yours too.
I'll do anything to make you come. And these guys hated me for it. I still do it to them every once in a while, but there was a period where it was an all-the-time thing. I'm sorry, I digress.
I actually couldn't remember what song that was in, and I went through this album, fast-forwarded through it just so I could find it, because I wanted to bring up that reference, because he did it all the time. We hung out a lot when we were younger, and that was his favorite thing to do, and still, to this day, maybe even like a month ago, he'll just throw it on there and go right to that part and stare us directly in the eyes.
You don't make eye contact.
Yeah.
Ever.
But that's how you make them uncomfortable, it's the eye contact. Because they don't know. He's like, I think he's serious.
Oh, dude, your stare, though.
I have a weird...
He's got a... really, I mean...
This is my number 2. Love You to Death is the greatest song ever.
It's true.
Yeah, that too. Again, this record's another record I think you could easily have sex to like 9 times.
All blood flows to the genitalia. The main riff is so sultry. Peter's vocals will turn a barbarian into a fancy lad. When Peter asks the question, "Am I good enough for you?" Yes, Peter, you are. Red Water Christmas Morning is the most depressing Christmas song ever.
The best Christmas song.
The breaking of the ornaments and a child crying. Jesus.
God damn ye merry gentlemen.
God damn ye merry gentlemen. My girlfriend's girlfriend is like Skinamax when you're 12.
Oh, do you remember the video for that? In our meat triangle, balls jangle. Wow.
When you're listening to In Praise of Bacchus, just when you think it can't get any sexier, yeah, it does.
It does.
It does. You son of a...
He starts
There's some Latin in there.
chanting Gregorian chants.
Just the panties come right off, fellas.
WAP. It's WAP up in here, man. Get a bucket and a mop for this wet ass.
Cinnamon Girl is a Neil Young song that sounds nothing like Neil Young, but it's awesome. I guess Neil Young is awesome.
He is awesome. They put a great spin on it.
It's breezy.
They always put a good spin on their covers.
Like, how can you not groove to it?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Wolf Moon, this album is big electrical tape covered nipple titties. Number 2.
I had this one at number 6.
Boo, this man.
I know, right? Love You to Death is one of the strongest typo songs. I think I really enjoy that song. It does a really good job of giving you that typo sound and feel, and it kind of encompasses everything, and there's not a shitload of reverb on his vocals either. Again, it brings his vocals out so I can hear that fucking voice, man. I want to hear that voice. Druidus, I thought was dumb. Yeah, I know, but it's like, I understand he has to play to his female crowd and stuff like that. I don't necessarily have to get into it, though.
This was all for the ladies.
Green Man, didn't care for that too much. Red Water, I thought was bad. I know she's falling out of love for 6 minutes.
Yes.
That.
Well,
We make fun of
a long
fucking.
fall.
I know, but we make fun of fucking pop people for doing that. So I gotta stay across the board. That's lazy writing. I understand what he was trying to do with it, but he's talented enough to.
For someone who likes
something
doom metal, where a riff, one bend
Yeah.
can take 30 seconds,
I know,
that's an
I know.
interesting stand to take.
In a 3-week-long song.
But I'm an interesting man.
You are a unique man, and that's what makes you special.
I thought that he's lyrically and writing, he was more talented than what he put on. I just thought he could have done better, and I wanted to hear more from him because I do appreciate his vocals and his vocal styling. You know, I don't like all the effects that he tends to use and stuff like that, and that's just because he has a great voice. It's not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not knocking him by any means. I want to hear that voice.
The
you know?
harmonies were lush, though.
Yeah,
Like, I
but-
Love You to Death, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's some effects on the vocals, but on that album especially, there are so many lush vocal harmonies. I think vocally, from a vocal standpoint, that's some of Peter's best work because of how different it was compared to the other. He was fucking crooning and like layering and harmonizing.
Kenny's harmonies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kenny and him harmonized together very
Yeah,
beautifully.
yeah, and they've always done that really well, and I appreciate that stuff. It's just for me, they just did it too much in this period, or with this album, and then it was like every other album. It seemed like, but you know, I like the punk stuff, the heavy punky stuff, and the doom. I mean, this has doom elements in it. It's again,
It's more
all
goth.
their albums
Don't worry.
have parts.
It gets really fucked up really quick.
Yes, it does.
So, 3 years later, Josh gets his request, and they stop doing so much crooning, and Peter Steele develops an incredibly toxic personal life, a addiction to alcohol, a serious addiction to cocaine and other hard drugs. Family members are dying in Peter's family, on top of death in the family. His father and mother get sick. Just life is shit for Peter, and the drugs and alcohol definitely don't help. And in 1999, they released probably their darkest, most somber, most depressed album ever, World Coming Down. There is a lot of beautiful, ugly songs on this. The first song I ever heard was Creepy Green Light, and I fell in love with that album. However, doing some research on it, it's actually about like somebody trying to bring a dead loved one back to life through the creepy green light. Everyone I love is dead. Everything dies. I mean, it's like, holy shit.
It's a bummer, man.
It's a super bummer.
bummer.
And despite that bummer, this is actually the first typo album, and it might be the only one I'd have to check, but it actually cracked the top 40 on the Billboard charts.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Ranked number 40 out of 200.
So this is my number 3. This album is an incredibly personal album for Peter. Songs like White Slavery are about cocaine. Everything Dies and Everyone I Love Is Dead is about his family members getting sick and dying. Who Will Save the Sane? That's basically Peter writing about his current mental health status. There is 3 soundscape tracks on here: Liver, Sinus, and Lung. And I thought the story was pretty interesting. Basically, each soundscape represents the body part that he is currently destroying with drugs and alcohol, and made like a soundscape track for it, and that was pretty cool. And actually, Peter laments this album the most out of all the typo albums. Josh Silver goes on record as saying he absolutely adores the songs on here, but I think because it was so personal for Peter, he shied away from really embracing it as much as everybody else. And to cap it off, they didn't play a lot of those songs live for many, many years. Now later on, they would grow to throw some things in, like Everything Dies would eventually make its way into a set list because of how popular it was, but for the most part, none of that shit kind of stuck around. So yeah, once again, my number 3.
This is my number 1. In terms of all of their stuff, this is like the most brutally honest. This was all about his life pretty much falling apart, his world coming down. And I mean, as much as I missed all the dark humor, I mean, it was kind of there in like little bits, like Skip It, the little teaser.
Yes,
Skip It. Yeah. But the rest of it is glum, glum, glum.
Mm-hmm.
This is almost funeral doom. It has a slow, nasty pace. The riffs are so
The
damn
riffs in this
heavy.
album are awesome.
Yep.
Kenny
Awesome.
Hickey shines on this one. This is my favorite Kenny Hickey
He's so
album.
underrated. He's
No,
so
dude.
underrated.
Yep.
Yeah.
He crushed it.
The riffs that he writes are just perfect for Typo, and once again, he creates moods and leads that enhance everything that it touches.
This is also one of my favorite bits for Josh Silver. I think he absolutely nails the atmosphere to just make it even more depressing. Everyone I Love Is Dead, one of my favorite songs. The title track is ungodly
Oh,
depressing.
it's just, it's so
Yeah, yeah.
dark.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's so
But I
dark
love
and
it.
evil sounding.
It's so well written. Everything is just, I don't know, dialed up to 11 as far as depression, but also with hooks. This is pretty much a heavier version of October Rust with a more honest, bleak sound. Like,
Yeah.
it's just nasty, and it's my number one.
It's my number one too. I mean, I don't have a whole lot more to say after what Nick said. I think the songwriting was really solid, and I like the clean, clear production. The groove in this album is sick
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yep.
There's so much going on by way of riffing. Again, the riffs in White Slavery are killer. Everyone I Love Is Dead. Again, the bend that's in World Coming Down. That bend, dude, is fucking gross. It doesn't get a whole lot darker than this, I don't think. And truth be told, you know, the honesty of the lyrical content, like, you can really feel this album.
He was always honest. He never,
Yeah.
Peter always wrote lyrics that were very personal and reflective.
Who Will Save the Sane? Again, that groove in there in the beginning, and then the jam at the end of that song is sweet. Yeah, I just really love this album, so numero uno.
World Coming Down, I put it at number 5. Not that it's a bad album at all. It's just a bummer, dude. Bummer, man. Everyone I Love Is Dead. It's a gothic funeral anthem. Depressing, sad. Who Will Save the Sane is like gothy grunge jazz.
I love it.
I love it.
With
I
a
love-
Beatles
I love
twist.
it because of
Yeah.
that.
It's different. It's kind of like the only time they really did something like that. It's different. It worked.
Yeah.
It's just a little
that was
odd.
sweet.
A little
My is no
odd.
strange.
World Coming Down is an epic journey of a song. It's like, what, 14, 15 minutes? Almost,
Yeah.
something like that.
Amazing.
Big, cool chorus. Peter's bass is crushing. Everything dies. The lyrics are kind of funny. I love my dad, though he died. Sad, but it's funny. You know. Daytripper cover is amazing, and I wish that if Peter were still alive, they would do an entire Beatles cover album.
Yes.
And it would be epic.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty
that'd
sweet.
Yeah?
I'd pre-order that on vinyl.
Yep.
Yes, I would. All the different colors of vinyl.
They'd all be green.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
all
4 different
green.
ones. The Drab Four. If I needed someone, and she's so heavy, the harmonies, heavy. Oh, God, damn my nipple. Go away. Yeah, it's a bummer. 5. Good.
I had this at number 2. I love this album. It brought the doom, Sabbathy stuff to it. White Slavery is a perfect example of that. Who Will Save the Sane is pretty badass. I don't care for that. What is that that effect, dude? That where it's like that swooping in when he comes in with the vocals.
Phaser?
It's almost like a
That's-
phaser.
Yeah. It's that I don't like it.
It's like a back. It's like a reverse.
Yeah, I was trying to
reverse fade
figure
in.
out. Yeah,
It's a reverse fade in basically.
okay. Yeah, that's where it is. But I don't care for it all the time, and he just does it all the time. I like the song; it's badass. But I can hate to say it, but I could almost do without the vocals on that song, and just have an instrumental, and it would be badass. World Coming Down is one of my favorite. I know I'm killing you guys in these rankings.
So
I
sad.
know, right?
So sad.
World Coming Down is probably one of my favorite Typo songs. I love it. It has some sweet breakdowns and just that China, that 2/4 beat with the China just going. It hits so hard, and like you hear that in so many other bands because they all do that, the hardcore stuff, and it all sucks. And this is great. This is a great example of that 2/4 China breakdown.
New York hardcore.
Yeah.
New York hardcore.
You ain't shit unless you're typo doing it.
Eat shit and die, you motherfuckers.
Green light is okay, but then that fucking effect comes back. That and then Pirate Blaze. Like I love
Pirate Blaze.
It's
It's a great
awesome.
song.
The opening of Pirate Blaze is sweet.
It does have a
I know what
badass
it is
opening
again.
riff. Yeah.
It's
Groove City.
It's super awesome and super stupid at the same time. Like, and some of those parts I don't like. I don't care for. Even though it's one of my favorite albums, it's still good. It's just some of those parts I didn't care for. Daytripper is badass. I
Yes.
love that version of the song. Yeah, that I could jam that all the time. But this is a great album, and I would have normally had probably Bloody Kisses, but then I listened to this again. World Coming Down is really strong.
Bloody Kisses was going to be my number one. I was almost sure of it, and then World Coming Down, I went back to it. It's like, I appreciate this more now.
I remember liking Bloody Kisses more,
Yep.
you know, and when I went back to it. And we already talked about that.
going
too.
into this whole thing, it was between Bloody Kisses and October Rust, and then
Yeah. But as with rankings, I mean, with Typo, it's like you pick out these songs and albums and put it together and have an awesome album. But,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, World Coming Down is number 2 for sure.
Only a few albums remain, and the second to last one would be Life is Killing Me. It would also be their last album on Roadrunner Records. Once again, Peter's life is in turmoil, more continued themes of death and depression and infidelity. In an interview, he said he considered this album to be his midlife crisis, and the title itself is a play on his current mind state at the time of when he recorded this album. This is my number 4. First of all, one of my favorite Typo songs ever is on this, Anesthesia. That is an amazing track. Songs like Life is Killing Me, I believe he said he wrote that about his father passing. Nettie is about his mother passing away. An interesting track that I always loved was Drunk in Paris, which Josh Silver said that he kind of wrote as like, you know, that's what it feels like when you're stumbling around,
And it
pissed
feels
drunk.
French.
Yeah, feels very French.
Yeah.
But just killer songs all over. There's a few songs that I don't think are as strong as the rest of the album, but overall I think this is a dark, heavy, killer presentation. You have the single Don't Wanna Be Me, which is a great song as well.
I love it.
Dark, heavy, riffy, doomy. I like it. Number 4 for me.
I had this one at number 6. This one is kind of an odd listen because you still get all the token typo things, you know, the moody depression, the gothic stuff, but it's kind of oddly poppy.
it's more it's
there's
more
a lot of
upbeat.
pop.
It's a little bit more like uplifting as far as like there's a couple times where I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of.
it's like, you know, the most depressing band on the planet paying like homage to the Ramones in spots. It's odd.
60s kind of.
It is, yeah. It's
Robots,
just
go-go kind of dance.
it's
stuff,
kind of odd,
yeah.
but there's some great songs here. I totally agree with Anesthesia. I think that's a brilliant song. I think The Dream is Dead, also a great song. Of course, I Don't Want to Be Me is instantly catchy. I remember when that song came out and I heard it on the radio back when the radio was still worth a fuck. That was just instantly catchy, and I was kind of thrown off the fact that it was Peter singing, because I didn't think it was a Typo song, because it was, again, really kind of upbeat and poppy. But this is an interesting album, and again, I don't dislike any of these albums, but it kind of felt just because you went from one extreme to kind of the next, and it was an odd transition for me. So yeah, number 6.
I had it at number 5. I liked this album. Once again, this was gonna rank pretty high for me too, but then I had a bunch of internal conflicts. Yeah, like the song 13 has music on it featured from the Munsters
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
show.
Yeah.
The song I Like, Goyles.
Goyles.
Yep. Yeah,
I
the song
like
I Like,
Goyles.
Goyles. Made it to troll on dudes that found him sexy after his appearance in
What
Playgirl
are we
magazine.
supposed to do, Peter?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do?
I mean,
Put it out there for us to look at.
Yeah,
You sexy
I hate to
Russian.
break it to you, but Playgirl's demographic isn't girls.
It's not, and he learned that.
Yeah, what they
did.
say, like the 25% or something. was
Yeah,
actually-
something like that was right. I think there's way more riffage going on in this album too.
Yes.
And I like the almost kind of poppy feel. It's just kind of funny. I think
It's an
Like,
odd contrast.
The song "A Dish Served Best Coldly," that pretty acoustic intro that's on there, and then
Oh,
you
yeah,
get
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of
Oh,
nasty pre-verse riff, and then you get that bass groove that's going on.
And there was some clean tone bass on that song, which is weird.
Oh,
Turn the
unusual
fuzz
for-
off.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How could she? I think the lyrics to that song are hilarious. Life is killing me. Sounds way more depressed. It almost reminds me of Crowbar at times, that riff that's
A
in
little
there.
bit, yeah. I heard that.
Yeah, good record. I hate ranking albums. I hate that this is number 5, but what are you gonna do?
It is what it is.
Yep.
Well, I had it at 7. I don't give a shit.
Oh,
Well,
well then.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
I Don't Want to Be is the strongest song for me on here. Less Than Zero, some more of that sitar crap, and you know, I don't know. Todd Ship's good. It's one riff that really stands out, and it's just surrounded by a bunch of crap. How could she? Just naming off. I understand, like, whereas, you know, you're depressed and you're just watching TV all of a sudden, but I don't have to have a list rattled off of a bunch of TV stars in my music. If I wanted to do that, I'd look up Wikipedia or whatever, and the music doesn't do anything to keep me engaged in that song. Again, I understand the concept of what he's doing there. Life is killing.
Do you?
Yeah, I just don't have to like it.
I guess
think
that's
it's
true.
again, like, I can just
Like it?
riff off a bunch
I
of
like
people.
Goyles.
I like
But
Goyle.
again,
I
it's
like
like,
Goyles.
I like
too.
Goyles too.
but it's going back to he's more talented in his vocals and his writing than that song gives. That's just going and just rattling
Well,
off a
that's
bunch
just
of names.
like your like opinion, man.
I know. I know. I don't care for it. That's why it's 7. Life is Killing Me. You know, I thought that song was awesome, and like I said, it's a good thing it came on because the album was kind of killing me at this point. Nettie, again, I like that song too. I enjoy that song. And then that electro cute thing that was like dumb.
Look at you,
Like,
cutie boy.
you're electro cute.
Electro
That's
cute.
stupid.
It's almost like a poppy ballad.
It was like a pop
Yeah, I
ballad.
it was.
I didn't like it, obviously.
Obviously.
I don't think you liked it.
I don't think he liked it.
How did you feel, Rin?
If there was more than 7 albums, he would rank it lower than that. I rank this at 6. Not because I don't like it, because I like the other ones better.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what it boils down
Yeah,
to.
it kind of boils down to it.
Yeah.
The pop is 60s pop is all over it. Kenny actually sings a lot on this album.
Yes.
He's like on 3 or 4 songs.
Sings a lot on Dead Again, too.
I don't know why, but I'm not mad at it at all. The song IYDKMIGTHKY. Yeah, pretty cool. It stands for Iwagamdingan.
Give me that.
Oh.
That's Swahili.
It's if you don't kill me, I'm gonna have to kill you. Apparently they didn't want to type it a lot.
That's a lot.
As opposed to all the other
Yeah.
song titles.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they
That
had.
are really long that they had to type.
They're fucking
They
typing
were.
out equations on some of them. Wow, I'm too late. IDFA. Get it.
Yeah, there was some clean bass, which is different. Shows Peter's little bit of bass noodling skills. Though I love the fuzz bass, but
Oh, God, that
yeah,
fuzz
you know,
is awesome.
it's a good album. It's just 6th.
That brings us to our final album here. And in 2007, they changed record labels and went over to Steamhammer. I forget what they're an offshoot of who?
SPV.
SPV, that is correct. This would be the last album they ever put out before Peter's untimely death in 2010. However, by this time in Peter's life, he had gotten clean for the most part. In interviews that I've watched with him, he said, you know, I'm still human and I've made mistakes, and, you know, sometimes he'd stumble into sobriety, but for the most part,
That's 3-4 bottles of wine.
yeah, when you're 6'100", what's it matter?
Over a nice
Right.
pasta dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotta wash it down.
Gotta wash it down. He basically cleaned up his life. He actually was self-proclaiming himself as like a Christian. It's like he was trying to clean himself up. Priorities changed for him. He wasn't so much focused on the rock and roll lifestyle anymore as much as he just wanted some peace and quiet in his life, I feel like. This album for me was number 5. I think this is a great album. What was cool about this album for me was it was a combination of all the previous albums. This album had a little bit of everything that we've grown to love about Typo. Also, I feel like Peter's renewed happiness in life shows itself in this album, as there's a lot more upbeat, Beatlesque kind of moments in here, especially in the first half of this album. As it goes on, we get some more of the doomy stuff, but there's a lot of upbeat, Beatlesque kind of stuff, and this was really enjoyable to listen to. I think they probably would have continued on a path similar to this had Peter still been alive, but the cool thing about Typo is you never know, you know? Sometimes they try some shit, and They always stick to their sound, but sometimes they'll use more of this ingredient than the other ingredients. So yeah, Dead Again, great album.
They did have a really great guest star, a couple guest stars on this album, though.
That is correct.
The Benson Hoist Lesbian Choir.
Which is them.
Which is them.
But it's a funny name for them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I had this one at number 4. I love this album. I was excited when it came out, especially when I started hearing some stuff coming out, like I believe it was Halloween in Heaven and Some Stupid Tomorrow. I was like, oh my god, the punk and the hardcore is back. And it is maybe like carry over like a little bit of that poppiness from Life is Killing Me, but I think with that hardcore element, it comes off a little bit more aggressive. And this is the only one that Johnny Kelly actually played drums on. The rest of the time,
true.
that was a drum machine.
A good sounding drum machine.
Yeah, very good.
very good
Because I
sound
didn't know,
I didn't
actually,
know
until
either
we
for
got
years.
into this. I was like, oh, really?
I was actually kind of surprised by that. But yeah, he actually throws in a killer drum performance. This album has a lot of all their previous elements on here. And I don't know, I just love the overall feel of it. It just feels re-energized. Like, all right, well, we're kind of free from a larger label now. And I feel like we can just kind of, get loose, experiment a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. Let's find some of that punk energy. Maybe a couple leftover Carnivore, niblets on the table.
Yep.
And I think they crafted a killer album. This was a great way to close it.
Yeah, I had this at number 3. I think this is a killer album. I think this is the greatest culmination of all of their styles from the beginning to the end. Like Nick said, there's bits of Carnivore in here. It touches on Slow, Deep, and Hard. It hits like the middle goth era. It gets a little bit more jammy. Vocally, I think it's one of the most vocally diverse albums. Pete really nails
A lot of Kenny,
vocals.
too.
Yes.
Yeah, and who doesn't love the Benson Hoist Lesbian Choir?
They've put out some good stuff over the years.
I
Yeah.
celebrate their entire catalog.
Yeah.
The song These Three Things.
Love that song.
The riff in the beginning of that song is killer, and the last 3 minutes of that song, that jam,
Is amazing.
kind of bizarre that the last song, Hail and Farewell to Britain, Hail and Farewell, that was Pete's last song. And it's
He also says hail and farewell to me. 4 years later, it was farewell to him.
yep,
So,
3 years later.
3 years, yeah.
I have this album at number 7. Not because I don't like it, because I've listened to this the least. I kind of forgot about this album. I don't know why. It's good.
2007 was a rough year.
I don't remember much of it. I was 23 at the time, much like I am now. It's sludgy, punky, and the Prophet of Doom. Kenny's vocals are badass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great chorus. September Sun is a beautiful song. Great vocal. Kenny also kicking ass. Good lead. There's
Yes.
a keyboard solo even a little
Yeah.
bit after the guitar lead. It's Halloween in Heaven is
Dimebag tribute.
and Teravan Flower from Lycia. Apparently they were kind of an underground gothy type band.
Dark wave.
Dark wave. Prophet of Doom's killer.
Yeah.
It's all killer. It's just number 7 because I've listened to it the least, and I will listen to this more. Good
That's-
things are happening, but I don't know.
It was taken away from us.
It was so soon.
I had this at number 4, and I think if I listen to this more, and I will, it'll probably would go up, and because it captures everything again. And I think too, it wasn't about writing to get laid or appeal to the goth crowd or appeal to this or whatever. They're like, okay, we have a sound and we have a badass sound. Let's just play. Like,
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
trying to do that, and it shows. It's like you guys said, it's re-energized, and it shows in the songs. There are, spots in there that get too much of the parts that I don't like about Typo, but they're not. They're just kind of peppered in there. Just,
Yeah.
It's not overwhelming, and it all fits and works really well, and it kind of transitions from that, like you said, going from Life is Killing Me and that more poppy kind of metal thing, or whatever the hell they were trying to go for, and it swelled over a little bit. But if you take those two albums, and you could see that transition in there, and the end of Dead Again is like killer, man. If you could take
Yeah.
the first part of Bloody Kisses and the last part of Dead Again, dude, that's like one of the greatest albums ever made. So
Or never made.
or yeah, never
Or never made.
But yeah, Dead Again, number 4, and like I said, it'd probably go up the more I listen to it, because again, I totally forgot about it. And I never listened to it when it came out.
Actually, had
And
it not
this
been
was
for
the first-
Wikipedia, I wouldn't have remembered it either.
Because those sons of bitches on Spotify didn't put it up.
Well, they can't. SPV wouldn't let them stream it.
Yeah.
I got
SPV
it
or
the
sons
day
of
it came
bitches.
out. So.
I did too. Forgot about it.
Yeah.
Don't know where it is.
But they came out and it disappeared.
I almost bought 2 versions. Almost got the red covered special edition, but
Which
Typo
is
doesn't look right in
Rasputin.
red.
No.
No, the Mad Monk, he doesn't look right in red. It
Yeah.
looks great in green,
Yeah.
much like everything in Typo.
Everything in Typo looks green.
As it should. That brings us to the end of one of my most favorite discography rankings that we've done so far. October is a month for Peter. October is a month for Typo Negative. It is maybe the best month. I don't know. It's a tremendous
Could be.
month.
Aye.
Tremendous month.
Somebody
Spooky month.
turns 23 this month.
This guy. So
Is that the 23rd anniversary
Finally.
of 23?
Finally, 23.
2 more years and you get an insurance discount.
Yes.
card.
When I turn 23.
hey.
This is silly.
You know, with Typo, there was never another band like Typo. There will never be another band like Typo. I really appreciate the fact that the other guys decided to lay it down when Peter died and not
As Typo.
as
As
Typo,
Typo.
and let them go out on those kind of terms instead of just trying to cash grab. They'll forever be one of my favorite bands, always in my heart and always in my butt because I cram records up my ass.
Yes.
That's gross. That's why he stays away from my CDs.
Yeah, in my vinyl collection.
Yeah, I'm not allowed within like 30
500
feet,
feet, 500
something
feet.
stupid.
500 feet.
Yeah.
It's typical restraining order. You know.
But yeah, Seventh Void, Silver Tomb, Killer, Kenny is an underrated guitar player and singer, and I hope he continues to make music.
Yeah,
Sal
me
and
too.
John
Yeah.
Kelly actually ended up being in a Pale Horse Named Death for a while, which was really solid stuff, like kind of like doom rock, doom metal, sludge. You know, they kind of have still those little bits of Typo sound for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
in there.
moves other ways, but yeah.
It's still there. You can still hear it.
I'm glad they're still making music.
Josh has decided to retire, and he is an EMT in New York now. I believe his feelings on the matter are if Peter's not here to do it with him, he's not interested in doing it. And
That's awesome.
Josh is the fucking man. He's always been the man.
That's very good.
He quit before the band's last tour to actually start going to school to be an EMT. And I believe they had a fill-in for the keyboards, but yeah, after Peter died, again, he said that was
Fuck
the
it.
guy I was making music with. And, you know, apparently he's a really good EMT. So if you're in New York and need your life saved, he's the guy.
And give
Call
me an
Justin.
autograph.
Yeah.
Give me an autograph, please.
Yeah, maybe an autograph. That'd be nice.
So, hit that subscribe button.
And the like
Get it
button.
going, and the like button, and,
And
the
the notification
notifications,
bell.
Because we
Yep.
do these cool premieres where we'll get on and we'll chat with you and watch it with you. It's pretty cool.
I'll be
usually,
there.
yeah, it's usually just Nick.
And Nick will definitely be there.
And if I'm up, I'll pop in.
If I'm not busy at work, I'll chime in.
I'm
with
there
my
in
3
spirit.
cents.
Thanks for joining us on this. Our maestro. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure doing this video. I don't remember what our next video. Oh, that's right. It's going to be Testament, which I am also fucking geeked for. I'm a very lucky boy because I've got to do a lot of bands that I've wanted to do lately. So I'm going to relish in this mustard, and we will see you guys later.
Happy Halloween.